Morning, guys. Thank you very much. And as Jay says, listen, it's great to be able to have a chat with you around auto-enrolment. And the reason we're doing it is twofold. One, I'm a financial advisor, and Advice First, we are a financial advisory service, but I'm also an employer, and I needed to get my head around auto-enrolment as well and what the implications are for the business. And then, obviously, by learning it myself and figuring out, listen, what are the pitfalls on it? What is actually going on with auto-enrolment? I decided the best way to help anybody is learn how to do it myself. And that's really what we're about. So today, guys, is really about it. It's a presentation, but it's also an informal presentation. I wanted to be more of a bit of chat. I'll take you through what auto-enrolment is. And obviously, I'm wearing both hats. From an employer point of view, I know the impact that this is going to have, but I also want to talk to you about alternatives that we may be able to, as employers, we may be able to pull a bit of positivity out of this. And it's really about creating the narrative in your company as to what message you're sending out. What message do you want your employees to have around auto-enrolment? And really, that's the key. So that's pretty much what I want to help. As Jay said, guys, fire in your questions, and I'm sure you'll have lots. I've designed the slides to hopefully cover a lot of your questions, but if there is, let's fire them up. Okay, guys, so first of all, who is Advice First? And I've been advising people in the financial sector since 1992. I became a bad employee in 2004, so decided that the only person that could put up with me was me. So I formed Advice First in 2005, because we provide a wide range of financial services. And you can see the list there. We're members of Brokers Ireland. We're also a member of the Trusted Financial Advisory Group. So we are regulated, obviously, by the central bank. And guys, we do think that starting good financial decisions starts with advice first. Excuse the pun, but there you go. Okay, so auto-enrolment. Where are we? So first thing is the actual auto-enrolment for your guys, for your employees, is going to be called My Future Fund. So we're going to talk about that My Future Fund piece, but we're also going to talk about alternatives. So what are the alternatives? If you don't want to engage with auto-enrolment and you feel it may not fit your company, what are the options? And guys, this information is correct as of May this year. Obviously, things can change, but as of May, here we go. So what is it? Why does Ireland need auto-enrolment? Well, there are approximately 800,000 people without a pension in Ireland. And the government have decided that that's not good enough, and they've decided that employers like us are part of the solution. Whether we agree, whether we don't, whether we like it, whether we don't, irrelevant. It's here, it's coming. So Ireland has an aging population, and in there lies the challenge. There's going to be too many people relying on the state pension when they get to pension age. And guys, that unfortunately is a recipe for disaster. And that is part of the reason why auto-enrolment, well, it's not part of the reason, it is the bloody reason why auto-enrolment's coming in. Interestingly enough, we're one of the last countries in the EEC to actually put auto-enrolment in place. So who will be auto-enrolled? Everybody that's not in an existing pension scheme. Doesn't really matter what age they are. Well, it does matter between the age of 23 and 60. Anybody earning over 20 grand a year. And anybody that's not already in a pension scheme. So even if you have people within your organization and staff that are paying a pension that is not going through your payroll, they will have to be automatically enrolled through you. It includes employees on probation, on casual work, seasonal works, part-time works. It includes everybody in your organization that's between the ages of 23 and 60 and earning over 20 grand a year. Anybody outside of that can opt in. But you have to be, and they will have to be enrolled. Who is excluded? Self-employed, non-earnings, active members of a pension scheme, PRSA scheme, or any other pension arrangement that is salary deductible. Whether the employer or employee is paying it, if there's a deduction coming through payroll going into a pension scheme, those employees are excluded from automatic enrollment. And there's a key message there, guys. If there's any kind of a pension deduction going through payroll, you do not have to auto-enroll your staff. And that's an important point, and we'll come back to that. There are opt-outs for employees. So initially, everybody has to be rolled in. After 6 months, your employees can opt out. And they can do this only in the window of month 7 and month 8. If they do that, they get their contributions back, but you do not. Your contribution stays in. Once after the 7 or 8 months, they can opt out at any stage by suspending their premiums. And as the premiums increase every 3 years, they have the opt-out function again. So after 6 months, they can actually opt out of the auto-enrollment in the window of months 7 and 8, and they can claim their money back. Anytime outside of those windows, they can suspend or pause their premiums. But they have to be rolled back in after 2 years. So round and round the mulberry bush we go. So what is it that's actually happening? What is the contributions and how do they actually work? So for an employer, it's staged up. And the reason they did this is obviously it's a gradually cook the frogs slowly rather than throwing them into boiling water. So literally what's happened here is that every 3 years, the contributions are going to increase over a period of 10 years. So you can see that in years 1 to 3, employer is paying 1.5%, matched by employee, and the government top up by 0.5%. So in total is 3.5%. Years 4 to 6, it's 3.31. Years 7 to 9, 4.5, 4.5, and then year 10 on is 6%. This equates, the government is topping up the contribution by 1/3 or 1 in 4, and it's very like the SSIA saving schemes that the government brought in a number of years ago, those that are old enough to remember those. So it's literally 1 in 4, and if we were to bring it into a tax-backed sort of scenario like pensions, it's equivalent to a 25% tax break. Here's the trick, guys, and here's an interesting one. A lot of people have said, well, Pascal, we've got part-time workers that fall below the 25 grand threshold for income, so we won't have to enroll them. But if that person is working in another job, whether you know about it or whether you do not know about it is irrelevant. If their total income is over the 20 grand a year, then you have to auto-enroll them. And we're given an example here of multiple employment. Say job A is with you and job B is with somebody else. So with you, they're earning 10 grand a year because they're working on a Saturday or over the weekend. But if job B is brings them up over the total threshold, then you have to auto-enroll them. Now, it's 1.5% of what you pay them, obviously. And that's 1.5% then from job B as well. So it's not about what you actually pay your part-time staff. It's what they earn in the year that matters and whether you have to auto-enroll them or not. Same example, but this time, job B has a pension scheme in place. Some form of pension scheme, some form of deduction from salary that's going into a pension scheme. And you can see if that employee is working with you, then you have to auto-enroll them, even though you're only paying them 10 grand a year. That is irrelevant. You'll have to auto-enroll them. Retiring and investing, from an employee point of view, how are they going to access the money? And this is quite important, guys, because auto-enrollment is a non-advisory pension scheme. So there is no advice piece going on here. You don't have a gulpin like me coming in to advise you around auto-enrollment. So how you're going to draw down the pension, the employees are going to be asking you guys, they're going to be asking their employers, well, listen, what is going on here? What's actually happening? So how you actually people get access to their fund, it's actually linked to the state pension age. They will be able to take part of their money tax-free when they get to 66, which is currently the state pension age. And they will be able to buy approved funds like what's already there, like buying an annuity, buying an approved retirement fund, which is already in pension legislation. So they will be able to do that with their auto-enrollment as well. But it's important for you guys to understand how people will access, because they will be asking questions. The investment choice that will be open to them, and again, remember, there is no advice on this. So they will be looking to the employer for direction around this. So the investment choice your employees are going to have is quite simple: high, low, and medium. And they've got to choose one of those. And if they don't want to choose, there is a default investment strategy that is geared to the person's age. So the younger they are, might go into high risk, and as they get closer to retirement, they will descale it or deleverage it down. But again, guys, there is no advice to this. Other key factors. Member accounts are portably between employment. So if your employee leaves and goes somewhere else, it goes with them. Not like the UK, where each employer holds the auto-enrolment accounts. No, this follows the employee. And it also is an important factor. Auto-enrolment is due to start in January. So if you employ somebody in 2030, you're not employing them in the first year of auto-enrolment, you're employing them in the fourth year of auto-enrolment. And the contributions are on the fourth year of auto-enrolment, even though this is your first year of employment, or the first year that you have them employed. Other issue is that there's no AVC facility. They can't top up the auto-enrolment. So even if you and or your staff or your employee want to pay more into it, there is no facility to do that. There's no early retirement, and that's a big bugbear for me. That if you have a staff member that wants to, that can afford to, and wants to go off and live their life a little bit earlier than 66, they do not have the eligibility to do that under auto-enrolment. And that's a huge one. No self-employed people involved in this one. As always, self-employed people, it's up to ourselves as being self-employed people to look after this. And by the way, if you're a company director that owns more than 25% of the shares within the company and controlling interest within the company, you're classed as being self-employed. So auto-enrolment may not be the right thing for your directors either. Communication. So a couple of things that we do know what the government are going to do and how they're going to get the message out there. So the communications is going to be it's going to be a three-phase strategy. One of them is awareness. Awareness of auto-enrolment is only starting. And it is very, very low. Among the employees, among employers, you're probably starting to see a lot of people talking about auto-enrolment. People like us, people like myself talking about it. And it's good that we are, but overall, with employees and with staff members, there's not a lot of talk around auto-enrolment, but you're going to see it. There's not a lot of talk either about what people are going to get out of auto-enrolment. There isn't a calculator. Now, I built one to actually try and figure out what auto-enrolment figures are going to look like. So with all the monies going in, age when you start, get to 66, well, what does it look like? What sort of fund's going to be there? So we've built one, but there isn't an official one, and we've made a number of assumptions, so we're able to figure it out. But again, this message isn't coming out yet from government. Launch date is January 2026 at the minute. It is subject to change, obviously. What is also happening is government is still talking to market researchers, engagement, and they're going to bring on advocates around auto-enrolment, but not from an advisory point of view. It's really about getting the message out of what auto-enrolment is. They are engaging with all media sources, obviously, but they don't want to do that until closer to January. So you're going to see a lot of stuff rolling out at the end of the year around auto-enrolment. They're going to be trying to educate your staff around what pension planning is, saving for your retirement, and all of that's great messages, but there's no advice. And that's going to be an issue, guys, for all of us as employers. It's going to be a huge concern. So what should employers like us, what should we be doing in terms of getting ready for this, other than the fact that this is going to cost us money? It is. There is no escaping from this. It's going to cost us more dough. But how can we bring that narrative to a positive message? And preparation is probably the most important thing. So who will run this My Fund, My Future Fund? There is a group being set up, NARSA, and they are the group that's going to run this behind. So they're going to be collecting the premiums. They're going to be allocating the funds to the different investment houses. There is going to be a portal for you as employer and employees to log in. They will offer back office support and they will communicate and provide information, but not advice, just information. So NARSA will be running this in the background. Now, obviously, for those that don't know it, TCS have actually signed up to be the backroom to this. They run the one in the UK as well. So yeah, that piece has been set up. So for employers like us, what do we need to do if auto-enrolment is fit for our company? So if you feel that auto-enrolment is exactly what you want to do and you do not want to engage anymore, you just want to know enough and do enough, and that's it. You want to tick a box and you're done. So you will have to register with NARSA. You will have to income from multiple employees is considered for auto-enrolment. Your payroll facility will have to, obviously, and most of them are, to be honest, most of the payroll providers are pretty much geared up to actually do this. And you must inform the staff and you must put them into auto-enrolment. In there lies the challenge. What will employers have to do? You've got to contribute. The contributions have to go into NARSA. Employers will have to match the contributions. We've already looked at it. And one of the things I didn't mention there was that the ceiling for your contributions, the earning ceilings is 80,000 euros. So if you have employees earning more than that, you do not have to contribute the auto-enrolment figure up to that level. Contributions to auto-enrolment as well will be deductible for corporation tax. So a little bit of a positive. What should you do, though, if you think, well, listen, auto-enrolment isn't really what I want to do. I don't really want to engage with it. And I also don't think it's fit for our company. And then there lies the challenge. Well, if you want to look at the alternatives, well, what are the alternatives? Why would you look at them? We're currently working with a couple of companies and a few companies. And what they're trying to do is they want to be ahead of the narrative in their business. They want to bring the narrative around pension planning. And what they've said to us is, and the reason they're engaging with us around this is that they want to lead, not just follow and setting the agenda. They want the narrative. They want to be talking about positive workplace pensions, and they want to ensure their employees are informed, engaged, and confident in retirement planning. They're bringing a positive into something that's been forced on them. So they're saying, yes, auto-enrolment, but listen, we want to do something better, and here's what we're doing. Other companies said, listen, auto-enrolment is just a starting point. Their goal was to provide real value and support, making pensions a positive part of the workplace culture. And you can imagine what's happening, guys, if you're saying this kind of message. Because if you're saying to your employees, listen, auto-enrolment is coming in, we have to pay this and you have to pay this. It is much better coming in and saying, listen, we want to help you fund for your retirement. We want to build this into your benefits package. And this is what we're going to do. And you can see that this approach is not just about ticking boxes. It's actively managing the communications to your staff. Okay. So why would employers look at an alternative to auto-enrolment? There's lots of reasons. I've put a few of them. I won't go through all of them, but you lead the conversation. If you just want to just tick a box and comply with auto-enrolment, then you don't need to look at the alternatives. Do that. But if you want to control a narrative and put a positive spin in it, then lead the conversation. And if you're talking from the top down within your organization about retirement planning and the efforts that you're doing and the additionals that you're bringing into it, it's a much more positive conversation to be having. Plus the fact, when you step off the auto-enrolment, you guys dictate what your pension scheme needs to be. It can be just exactly the same as auto-enrolment, or it can be something different. But the point is that you control it. The contributions, you can even disclose how the scheme is actually built. And you empower your people through clear communications, guys. It's all about communications. It's all about the narrative within your company. What is it you want to say to your people? Do more than the minimum. Everybody's going to be doing auto-enrolment, every employer, because you don't have a choice. But can you imagine if you're the one that's doing something different? Well, you become the employer of choice. And you build trust and engagement with your staff because you're educating them, you're helping them, you're making somebody like ourselves available to them to actually help them make the decisions about the huge important element of their life is when they want to stop work and retire. And more importantly, you align your pension with what your business goals are, not just what auto-enrolment is telling you what you should or shouldn't do. you're taking a step forward and you're taking a step out of that and say, listen, let's just make this more in tune with our business strategy and where we want to bring it. But there also is benefits for the employee should you decide not to do this. So auto-enrollment is very restricted in terms of investments and how they actually access the money. Greater flexibility you can bring by stepping away and looking at an alternative. First of all, additional voluntary contributions. You and the employees can fund more. They can't do that with auto-enrollment. Early access, and this is my big bugbear, guys. Auto-enrollment is 66 before your staff can actually get access to it. But with the right alternative, they can access their pension anytime after 50. The only way auto-enrollment will let people access their fund before age 66 is due to ill health. But on a pension scheme or alternative, you can anytime after 50, if they want. Higher tax reliefs. Anybody that's in 40% tax should not be in auto-enrollment. 100% should not be doing it. Because if we take the top up from the government, the 1 in 4, it's a 25% break in terms of taxes. If you're on 40% tax, auto-enrollment is actually not a good thing. If you're on 20% tax, then you would feel that the pension scheme or an alternative wouldn't be as good on a tax break, but it's not hard to make it up with a better investment strategy. So the difference that your staff might feel that they're not getting on auto-enrollment, it's very easy for us to make that up in a different investment strategy. Higher employer contributions. If you've got staff that you want to reward and you want to align their package with the quality of staff that you're looking for, being able to pay a little bit more for those staff into a pension arrangement is better. And you're going to find that pension planning and benefits at work are becoming hugely, hugely more in the conversation of recruitment as well. And if we talk to any of the recruitment agencies, they'll tell you that the pension benefits, health benefits, actually just wellness and work is now becoming a huge factor when it comes to who do people go working for. And the big one for employees and employers going forward, when you put in an alternative to AE, you also get a company like ourselves. So you get us coming on site to help deliver the message of the valuable benefits that you are now putting in place for your staff, that you are stepping away from auto-enrollment to do something better. And you get help to do it through a company like ourselves. What are the alternatives to auto-enrollment? Guys, I know I'm skipping through this quite a lot, but ideally today, really what we want to do is just give you what's out there, what's actually happening. And then if you have any other questions, by all means, come back and we're more than happy to talk to you about any questions or concerns you have. But the alternatives in the marketplace are really 3. So you can put in an occupational pension scheme. You can put in a PRSA. So if you don't have any existing pension plan within your organization, then you can choose one of those 2 choices. And by the way, we're more than happy to help you figure out which one is right for you. And there's reasons for both of them, and we just need to sit down and figure out, well, listen, for your organization, what you want to do, which one of those would be right for you. The alternative is that if you have an existing pension scheme, you can adopt that or adapt that to fit. And by the way, we are more than happy to just have a chat with you around this. The important message here is, even if you've got an existing pension scheme, anyone not in the scheme will have to be auto-enrolled. And now you've got 2 schemes going. You have auto-enrollment and you have your pension scheme. You may not want that. So the things that we have to look at, if you've got an existing scheme, we've got to look and see, well, listen, is it voluntary to actually go into it? Is there vesting rights? So vesting rights are quite important. And in a pension scheme, if an employee leaves your employ within 2 years of starting, they can get their money back, but so can you. Big difference. Auto-enrollment, money's in, gone from you, you can't get it back. With a pension scheme and vesting rights, you can within 2 years. People on probation period, you're going to have to remove access. So if they can't access the pension scheme while they're on probation, you're going to have to remove that. If there's anyone that's exempt in all salary deduction schemes initially, overtime standards, listen, what this means is over time, if you've got a pension scheme, standards will be brought in to say, well, listen, which is best for employee and best pot wins. So if you've got a pension scheme in and over time, this scheme is going to actually benefit the employee more than auto-enrollment, then you're fine with your scheme. And the important thing is to design your scheme to make sure that it's. So that doesn't mean that you have to go in with 6 or 7% of salary. You could go in with 5% of salary starting off. Done. And that's you done. That's all you want to do. But over time, as long as you can show that that's going to benefit the staff member better than auto-enrollment, well, your plan one's and away you go. You can have a hybrid. So you need to decide, if you've got an existing pension, do we want both? Do we want to integrate everyone into the existing scheme, or do we want to run auto-enrollment for everyone that's not in the scheme? Again, those are choices and decisions that you guys need to make. For employees, and considering your existing scheme, eligibility. Well, who can get in? Who can actually get into the scheme? If you've got an existing scheme, guys, go back and see, well, listen, who can and who can't. Higher taxpayers should be in it, you need to find a home for them. Auto-enrollment is definitely not for them. New joiners, when can they get into the pension scheme? And education of non-members of existing schemes. So in an existing scheme, you've got to take a look and see, well, listen, what's the rules and regulations? And you may have to change those if you don't want to engage with auto-enrollment. So guys, that's the presentation. We've allowed 15 minutes for questions. So my contact details is all there. Jay is also going to give out our contact details when the meeting's over. So guys, if there are any questions, Jay will hopefully go through the questions with us. Jay. I'm going to have a wee suck of this coffee.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pascal, for the presentation. That was very, very helpful. And like I said before, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in now in the Q&A box. We're going to take a few minutes to go through them. We have a couple of questions in already. Yeah. The first is, who or what is TCS?
TCS is a company in, Jay, we'll send the guys a link to them. Used to be Primerica. TCS bought it a few years ago. They're based in Letterkenny. They actually run the Nest scheme in the UK, which is the auto-enrollment piece in the UK as well. So yeah, that's who they are.
Good stuff. And the next question is, we are company directors, but also employees. We have a pension already as directors. Do we still need to auto-enroll?
If the existing scheme is going through payroll, so if the company is paying it, or you guys as directors are paying the pension scheme through your salary, then no, you won't have to auto-enroll. No. But just make sure that your pension scheme incorporates everybody.
Okay, good stuff. I have another question here. Hi, can you have an employee that has both a PRSA through work and go through auto-enrollment? Is that possible?
If you have an employee that you are deducting money from to pay into their PRSA, either you as the employer or the employee themselves are having money deducted through their payroll to pay into their PRSA, then you don't have to auto-enroll them. Now, proviso, the other side to that is if the employee is paying it themselves from their bank account, you will have to auto-enroll them. So it's all about payroll. Is the pension plan, scheme, savings, whatever it is you're doing, is it evident on payroll? And if it is, there is no auto-enrollment for that employee.
Okay, that's great. We have a lot of questions coming in. I'm not sure if we're going to go through everything, but we are going to do our best. If we
listen, we have
your question, we're going to get onto it.
We have loads of time, guys. Let's just roll through the question because this is important stuff.
Okay. Next question is: as an employer, do I need to do anything today, or will revenue be on to me? What is the process?
Good question. Do you need to do anything today? I would say yes, but I'm coming at it from a financial advice point of view. But from an auto-enrollment point of view, no, you don't. If you're deciding, well, listen, I'm just going to roll with auto-enrollment, and I don't really want to do anything else other than that, then at the minute, the entry for auto-enrollment is January. You will not have to do anything until then. But obviously, from an advisory point of view, we might say, listen, you probably should look at it before that, but no, you don't need to do anything today.
Good stuff. This one is really good. If an employee has 2 or more employments, how will employer know if employees' total earnings are over the 20K threshold?
You'll be told. NERSA will write to you the same as they do. So at the minute, if an employee changes their tax credits, you get a notification from revenue of tax credits changed. It'll be exactly the same. You'll just be told that this person needs to be auto-enrolled.
Good. Okay, another question is, how will the scheme work for employees who are paid hourly, such as retail shop employees? At the start of auto-enrollment, it may not be clear if their annual income will exceed the 20,000 euros per annum.
It's a good question. And I would imagine it's going to be based on a cumulative basis, because actually it's a question what we don't know. And there's certain things with auto-enrollment that we just don't know. Hourly rates, we don't know. I would surmise that they'll base it on the previous year. Would be my guesstimate on it, because again, the important thing to remember, guys, is I don't work for auto-enrollment. I don't work for NERSA. I'm sort of like you guys. I'm just an employer trying to figure this out. I would surmise that if they earned more than that last year, they'll automatically be enrolled. I would reckon that'll be. Now, it can also be that people can be unenrolled. So, you know, if income falls below a certain below the 20 grand, that they can drop out of auto-enrollment as well. But that's a very good question, and one probably we need to get a wee bit more clarity on.
Good. I have another question here. New joiners in our company don't get to join the pension until after their 6 months probation. We're looking at changing contracts, however, if ER pay it's 1%, for instance, into their pension to avoid auto-enrollment until after probation. So I'm trying to figure out the question. This would avoid AE, or if an employee doesn't want to join the auto-enrollment, the ER can pay 1% the lowest to avoid auto-enrollment.
Okay, so I would suggest that if you want to avoid auto-enrollment, you either change the eligibility to your pension scheme to give them access to the pension scheme during the probation, but you can decide to keep the payments down. You can decide to go on. I would probably tell you to go on at 1.5, not 1, because you want to be seen to be in the spirit of auto-enrollment. So the spirit of auto-enrollment is 1.5. So I would suggest, because your employee probably wouldn't be happy if you're paying less than the auto-enrollment amount as well, I would suggest you go in at 1.5% of wages for your new employees over that 6 months. You're still giving them access to the pension scheme. It might not be at the level of everyone else, but they still have access to it. I would also make it, and this is where it might be a bit tricky, voluntary probably isn't going to work, because they don't have a choice in auto-enrollment, so they shouldn't have a choice in your pension scheme either. So what's going to have to happen is, if you've got an existing pension scheme, for existing employees where it was, say, voluntary to enter, you might have to go back and have a chat with them. But any new employees coming in, it's going to have to be part of the contract that they're going into the pension scheme. They don't have a choice. And it can be for that 6 month period, you can keep it at the 1.5 and 1.5, and that keeps you out of auto-enrollment. Hope that answers that question.
Great. Another question here, really good. Where do these contributions all go, and where does the money go until the time of retirement?
It's a good question. NERSA are the admin company that's going to house this. Government are talking to the likes of Irish Life, Zurich Life, Standard Life, and all the life insurance companies, and they are having a beauty parade of them at the minute. They have told them what they want. There's going to be 4 or 5 investment houses picking all this money. The money will be divided equally between all investment houses. Each one will run the high, low, medium risk category. They'll also have the default investment strategy. So all monies are pooled together, and all monies come back in a pool together. So the money sits with the life insurance companies through NERSA, and when people get to age 66, they'll access their funds through there. The investors or the employees will not have access to who's actually investing their money, whether it's Irish Life or New Ireland, or it's not going to make any difference then, because the money's all pulled together in one pot.
Okay, good. Another really good question here. What is the purpose of allowing an employee to opt out after 6 months when they have to join in within 2 years?
Great question, and one probably for NERSA, not for me. Remember, I don't work for auto-enrollment. I don't see the purpose of it myself, but I feel auto-enrollment was built, and all the good stuffs and all the bad stuffs of all the other companies that brought in auto-enrollment. And what they found, I know, in the UK market was there was a lot of resistance to it. So at that stage, they brought in an opt-out. I personally don't think people should have an opt-out. I think saving for retirement is a message that we all should be talking about. And unfortunately, people's inertia, and especially young people, they feel, well, listen, I'm never going to retire, but listen, it soon comes in. So I think as much as we can encourage people to stay in, I think it's the right thing to do. But auto-enrollment have decided that they have an opt-out. I personally don't agree with it, but hey, that's what's there.
Cool. I have another question here. An employee has PRSA that they pay into, the employer does not pay into that. Mm-hmm. Will the employer now have to start making a payment to their scheme, or will they run auto-enrollment alongside the employee PRSA?
It's another very good question. Okay, so there's a couple of answers to this one, and it depends. If the employee is paying their PRSA through payroll, that is, the company have appointed a PRSA provider, they have facilitated deduction from wages and remitted to the PRSA provider. If the money is being deducted from salary, even though it's just the employee, then that employee does not have to be auto-enrolled. Now, let me say that again. If the employee is paying it, they will not have to be auto-enrolled. There will come a point where the employer will have to start paying. And that's probably going to be year 6, when best fund comes in and standards are applied. At the minute, there isn't any. So if either the employee and or the employer is paying a pension through payroll, then auto-enrollment doesn't apply. Ideally, you want both paying in. And again, it comes back to the message that you want to give to your employees, and if you control the narrative. But if, an answer to the question, if the employee is paying through payroll, you don't have to auto-enroll them. If the employer is paying and the employee is not, and it's through payroll, you don't have to auto-enroll them. You probably should be paying some in, but you don't have to.
Good. Another question here. If an employee is on a social welfare payment and working part-time, does that social welfare amount count towards the threshold?
I don't know the answer to that. It's another good question. So those are questions we're going to have to find out, and I will come back and give you that. It's a question I'm just going to have to ask Social Protection, to be honest, because it's them that's actually running this. So I just don't know, but we will find out.
Great. Another good question here. Will the auto-enrollment contributions be paid to revenue or to NERSA?
NERSA.
Okay, this is another good question here. Probably this is going to be our last one, just looking at the time. If the employee is receiving the minimum wage, will their contribution bring their take-home pay below the minimum wage? As in, like, what they contribute from what they receive or they earn is little more to invest in the auto-enrollment. Does that make sense?
Jay, just read that one to me again, because I didn't quite get that one.
Okay. If the employee is receiving the minimum, I think what this person is trying to find out is, like, if someone is on minimum wage, when the contributions are deducted from their pay, will their salary be like below the minimum wage, and how does that whole thing work with?
No, the wage category is a minimum wage. Auto-enrollment is not going to affect that. And if minimum wage goes below because of the deduction, it goes below. It's like what you pay your employees is, if that's what you're worried about is minimum wage, you continue to do what you're doing. Auto-enrolment won't affect that.
Okay. Okay, another good question here for us to end. Can we advise employees to get independent advice on risk level for auto-enrollment?
You can advise your employees to do whatever you want, but who's going to give them independent advice? Because for a start, anybody they're going to is not going to get anything out of the auto-enrolment. So if we as financial advisors are advising your employees, well, how's that going to work? So the only way it's going to actually happen is that somebody somewhere is going to have to pay a fee. And then there lies the challenge. How do you actually go about doing that? And that's where it might be beneficial to actually look at the alternatives.
Okay, that's great. And for anyone attending here, can you send the link to your auto-enrollment calculator?
No. Not yet, but we will. We're putting it on the website, and yes, we will. So, and again, guys, I listen. We've built it. We've made a number of assumptions. I've made assumptions around administration fee. I've made an assumption around investment or an annual management charge on the auto-enrolment. Listen, it's just an assumption. As soon as we know exactly what it is, obviously, then we can sort of tweak our calculator. But I personally wanted it just so as I can give advice to people that we are talking to and the companies that we are working with. I needed to be able to show them, listen, what auto-enrollment is going to look like, and then versus the alternative. Well, if your company's bringing in something that's different, well, how will that benefit? And we're able to show how an alternative actually benefits each of the employees, and that's the reason we built it. Will we make it available? Yes, it's going to be on the website anyway, but please take it with it that it is an assumed growth rate. It is an assumed charging structure, but it was just to give us a kind of a yardstick to sort of figure out what auto-enrolment looked like in pounds, shillings, and pence.
That's great. Okay, I think we're at time. So
is there any other questions, Jay? If anybody wants to stay on and we have other questions, I'm okay to stay on for another couple of minutes here.
Yeah, sure. Like if you're up
Yeah,
for staying on, we do.
Go ahead. Let's fire another couple of questions. Anybody wants to stay and listen to the questions, guys, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, someone asked if recording of this will be sent out. Yes, you have a chance to watch this again. Just keep a look out on your email. You should be getting a link later today, if not today, tomorrow. Let me see here. What questions we didn't? Okay, another question here. If an employee is in a pension scheme in a first job and takes on a second part-time job, and they do request to, I'm sorry, this moved. Let me read that again, just because the bubble moved. If an employee is in a pension scheme in a first job and takes on a second part-time job, and they request to be included in auto-enrollment with the second part-time job, can the employer refuse to enter them in the auto-enrollment, or is this an employer, or is the employer obliged to upon their request?
The employer cannot refuse, and it's not a request. You will be told to auto-enroll them. So if their joint income is more than the minimum for auto-enrollment, you will be told that you have to auto-enroll them.
Okay, that's good. Someone is asking, can we share the recording? Yes, like whenever you get the link, there's a shareable link. You can share with anyone else in your company that needs access to this information for sure. Let me see here if I missed any questions. Just 1 second. Okay, there's a question here that says that does revenue project the expected growth or any funds invested over time, and much like a bank interest or something like that?
No, they don't. They don't yet. Now, all of that's to be worked out yet. Now, as I say, we have a calculator and we've assumed a 4% growth rate, just to give it something to compare with. And again, obviously the growth rate will depend greatly on what fund the employee chooses. But yeah, I mean, at the minute, there is no official calculator out. And a growth rate will be assumed because obviously nobody actually knows what the growth rate is going to be. So just for our own calculation, we've assumed a 4% growth rate.
Okay. I have another question here. I think the question says, can you choose to do both? I assume this person is talking about like a PRSA and the auto-enrollment. Can you have like 2 pension schemes running at the same time with auto-enrollment? Is that possible?
Well, yes, you can. So if you decide that the pension scheme of the PRSA is not going to be open to everyone, and you're going to have certain criteria, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you'll have a hybrid. It means that you'll have those staff. So let's say you have key members of staff that you want to put a pension scheme in for, and then everyone else goes into auto-enrollment. You can do that. That's not an issue. It doesn't have to be one or all. It just make what fits your company and what fits with the message that you're trying to give to your staff. But absolutely, you can have as many pension arrangements as you want. It just leads to a little bit more paperwork and a little bit more organization, but absolutely.
Okay, good. Another good question here. Will your funds be guaranteed to be there when you come to retirement age?
When it comes to investments, there are no guarantees. Funds do fluctuate. And as we've seen with Mr. Trumpy and his tariffs, we've seen markets jitter. So there will be ebb and flow in the valuations of the scheme, the same as there would with any other investment scheme. So in your pension scheme, there's no guarantees either. And again, it's really about gearing the pension and the investments to what your employees want. But yeah, there's no guarantee. No, it is an investment, the same as any other pension. So it will ebb and flow, and there will be volatility in it. So no, whilst it should be there, with any pension, of course it should be there if the strategy is correct. But no, there won't be any guarantees of the return.
Okay, that's good. I think those are all our questions, really.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you found it useful. It is a wee bit just a chat, and guys, that's what we wanted. We wanted to be a little bit loose with it because we're all trying to figure this out and what the best way is. So from an advisory point of view, I would advise you to look at the alternatives if it fits with your company. You can build an alternative that will fit better with your company rather than being forced into auto-enrollment and being told what you do. You can control the narrative and control the message to your staff. Make it a positive. You're in auto-enrollment anyway. It's going to cost you money. So you might as well get some positivity back out of it. And that comes from the message that you're going to give your staff. Are you just going to tick a box and force everybody into it? Or are you going to educate them, help them plan for retirement and drive a positive message? So for now, guys, any questions, come back to us. Jade, a couple of questions that we had, we need to get answers to those and come back to everybody as well on them. Guys, for now, thanks very much for taking the time, and stay tuned. There will be other webinars as we over the next couple of months as well. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.